Sometimes in life, greatness is right in front of us. Sometimes we really don't know how great someone is until we have taken a moment to really soak in what it is that they are doing. Greatness is hard to measure because the impact can last for infinite generations. The following excerpt is an interview with Jerry Reyes, a 6th grade teacher here at Puesta del Sol Elementary School. Today, we spotlight the unique work he is doing with Puesta students and the LOTT Club. Even if you are not in the education field, I suspect that you will be truly inspired by seeing and hearing the commitment this one man has toward educating our kids.
Luis's hand went right up and he took responsibility. He didn't need a reason as to why I was asking. He understood what I was saying. That's the kind of character I'm looking for.
LOTT is a community service to help the school, and it stands for Leaders of Today and Tomorrow.
LOTT is we help the community, and we also do fun stuff. And like, for example, we do reading, we do social service, and we do cooking and engineering and checking, and like, we just have a good time.
I like that it shows us like new things, and it lets us help our community, and then it gets us a better chance, and it helps us to get into college.
LOTT teaches us about code breaking. Like if you're a spy, they put some type of words and languages.
There is not really one particular thing that I like. It's just really an awesome project that we do as a group, and I really like that about it.
In your minds, it's got to be the real world.
Okay, so Jerry, what is LOTT? Tell me a little bit about that.
LOTT stands for Leaders of Today and Tomorrow, and it's a club that exists on other campuses in our district. The name exists on other campuses, but the format and the way that I put it together is different. It's unique to Puesta del Sol. Basically, it takes some of the elements of a leadership club where you'll have kids that'll learn the traits of asserting themselves and learning how to problem solve. Our motto for it is empowered learners, considerate citizens. And this is what we're heading toward with this group of kids.
LOTT is awesome.
So we're talking about as you actually build things, we think if we were real people, how would this work in the real world?
Now, I noticed occasionally a student will come to me and say, I'm working really hard and I'm in danger of being on probation for LOTT. Tell me just a little bit about that.
Oh yes, definitely. There are high academic standards that are expected of these children. I don't expect perfection, and I tell them that right from the beginning. I'm not looking for perfect. I'm not looking for fives. What I'm looking for is effort. What I'm looking for is citizenship and seriousness. These kids are there to make a difference in the world around them, in the community, and with their peers. That's one of the reasons that they were chosen to join this club. They're serious about making a difference in our world. And so part of that, too, is understanding that you have to have what we call in our class amor proprio. You have to love yourself. You have to respect yourself. And part of that is holding yourself to your own rigorous standards. So yes, I help them to build that, and they always rise to the occasions.
And I can see that because they'll come back and they'll tell me, okay, you know, this is my goal. I'm setting my timeline, and I'm going to follow through because I don't want to let Mr. Reyes down. Right. It starts off at some point. You know, it's a tipping scale with kids that are gifted like this. There is a point where they look up to me as a role model. I'm grateful for that. You know, you have that whole movie, The Waiting for Superman syndrome, and it is part of that. You have to step up and set that example and tell them there's a lot of good in the world, but you have to be the one person to make the difference. I'm the one person, and they're going to be that one person for somebody else in the future. So initially, yes, they do want to please me. They have their high standards. They want to be recognized. But after a while, they internalize all of that. And that's really, you know, what it's about. It's about them taking the gifts that we give them and internalizing it and then bringing that back out into the world. That's what I'm looking for with these kids. So why did you start LOTT?
I started LOTT for a variety of reasons. Part of it has to do with the dialogue that's going on in education. We are so test-driven, so focused to those standards. Many teachers feel that they can't teach the ancillary things, the arts, the humanities that Puesta del Sol strives for. And I believe that we can. In my regular classroom setting, these kids already learn many things that normal 6th graders, I wouldn't say normal, but 6th graders on the average would learn. So they learn things that the average 6th grader wouldn't learn, world geography being one of them, so that the kids have a context on which to focus the other lessons on for social studies. LOTT is in some ways an extension of that. We do cooking class, we do engineering, we do a lot of the things that are my passions, and it gives me time to bring them to these kids. But the more important thing is that it doesn't follow the traditional pattern of teaching. Normally we get up, we do the explicit direct instructions, I talk, they listen, you know, we have that dialogue, and that is positive in my class. I try to make it entertaining. But in LOTT, these students are able to drive the instruction. They're able to drive what I'm presenting to them. I give them a rough outline, and then they take it over from there. And they can teach me things as well. Number 2, to make sure that we are not accused of anything else because we're building a positive reputation, we will not be taking any of our own paraphernalia, any of our own things into the building with us. We're not taking any backpacks, we're not taking anything. That way it's very clear about what we're doing, right? Is this accusing somebody of anything? No. This is part of building our character, our reputation. We know we're good, now we have to prove it because there's been some question.
I joined LOTT because I like to help people who need it. I like to help the community, and I am a very advanced student.
So part of it is looking at how the kids behave, looking at how they interact. Part of it is a social experiment to see what they like to do when they're given the freedom. I'm using those as teaching cues to tell me what we're going to look forward to in the future. It tells me what drives the children so that I can become a better teacher.
So I noticed that you put in a lot of time after school with a lot of extracurricular preparation, and whether it's for LOTT or even for your classroom. So tell me really what drives that for you.
The kids are what drive it, to be quite honest. I mean, that's the succinct answer. The kid, it's as if I'm a repository of energy. If the kids love what's happening, I get charged, and then I'm encouraged to go forth. If the kids are not reacting to it in a positive way, or they feel that they're not benefiting from it, I'm a little bit crestfallen, but it teaches me to go back to the drawing board. So really, their energy is what drives me. Their surprise, their expectations after a while. Mr. Reyes, can we do this? Mr. Reyes, is this a possibility? And then sometimes I just go to the kids and I present ideas to them. Would you guys like to do a cooking class? Yes, they get excited about it. We prepare a menu together. That's one of the examples. If we do an engineering block, what is it that drives us? It's the dialogue between the kids and the teacher. That's really what it's about. And then it's watching their reaction again to one another. When I see the kids excited, I'm just charged to go out and do more things for them. So they are the driver behind the whole thing.
And I think that experience and really the relationship that you create with the kids through this is just phenomenal. What I hear time after time, especially from our students who move on and then I still interact with over time, the message that keeps coming back is, you know, Mr. Reyes, he could be tough, or he has really high expectations, but at the end of the day, they come back and they say they wouldn't want it any other way.
Yeah, you would think, because I am so, the kids use their power word, austere with them. I am austere with the kids in some aspects because I hold them to high expectations, but again, those become their own after a while. And many of my kids go on to leadership, they go on to great roles with their peers, which is exactly what LOTT is intended to do. It's intended to bring out a confidence in them. Maybe that was lacking, or it's there, but they just need somebody to coax it out.
Well, what I like about LOTT is that I get to help a lot of the community in school. I actually never helped the community in school, and this is my first time.
I try to think of the kids as being locks, and I'm that key. I hope to be that key for as many kids as I could possibly be. And if I can turn that key, that's what's going to turn them into exceptional students.
Well, you're turning it because you're giving them life lessons that they're not necessarily getting somewhere else. And that life lesson is staying with them. And it's staying with them as they move on in time, you know, after they leave Puesta and they're going on to the other schools. And we know that because they're coming back and they're telling us, and their parents are telling us as well.
Mr. Reyes is the best teacher. He's funny, nice, and generous. Mr. Reyes is the best.
The output of what these kids, how they're wonderful citizens, and that's what we're looking for.
What I like about Mr. Reyes is that he's funny and he's a cool teacher.
And the kids and the parents both do come back and they ask for advice, or they might be having a problem. They're like, Mr. Reyes, how do I solve this? But I also tell the kids, this is in my general class as well as in LOTT. I am your 6th grade teacher, and you might not remember that I taught you a particular lesson, let's say in mathematics, but you will remember that I taught you that life lesson that you're talking about. Kids can tell when you are not sincere, when your heart isn't in it, when you're dragging, when you don't want to do it. I think that's the message that all teachers inherently know, but we forget sometimes. You've got to be sincere. You've got to stay focused on the kids as kids. We have a lot of pressure on us as teachers. We really do. It's long hours. It's a lot of work. The group over here is also doing the play Beauty and the Beast, so it's a good backdrop for them to figure out how they want to bring those characters to life. It'll give them some ideas. At the same time, we're working on theater production, so they're working on how to use their voice for effective use without any other props. So we'll begin with that in theater, and then they'll move on to acting and stage production. But right now, it's just using those voices.
Do you feel that there's anything that you're sacrificing in return for all of the time and effort that you're putting in after school for the kids?
Yes, I mean, and that's the reality of it. If you're going to be honest about it, again, I made an allusion to that film, Waiting for Superman. That disturbed me. For me, to make the difference in the kid's life is to sacrifice some of your personal life. There was a trainer at our district named Melissa Timko Miller, and she said, you know, Jerry, you have the idea, you have the focus of what I've been trying to convey, and that is that teaching is not a job, it is a lifestyle. And that's true. What do I give up? Number one, a lot of money. You know that I spend between a fifth minimum and a half of my monthly salary on these kids. For instance, to teach an etiquette class as part of the life skills class, I have to buy the silverware, I have to buy the plates, I have to buy all of the things that go with it. To teach a cooking class, these things cost money. We're in a budget crunch, but that's not an excuse if this is going to make a difference in the kid's life. Money is a tool for me. I mean, I'm blessed that I'm not focused on that. My primary focus is those children. So money is one thing that's, you know, you sacrifice that. You also sacrifice your personal time. You sacrifice rest. It takes a lot to plan. It takes a lot to go out there and ask for money for field trips, to apply for grants, to prepare a good lesson. If you are a good teacher, you don't look at the plans for the week and say, okay, well, I'm done. I mapped that out. Every day you are having to adjust based on what those kids' reactions are. If they're excited about it, you did something right. If somebody's dragging and all, you know, you don't have a large group of kids that are catching it, you've got to go back to the drawing board. And that means sitting down at the end of the day and trying to approach it from another aspect. Maybe you're just not approaching it in the right way. They may need something more visual, more auditory. It's constant. And those are my regular duties on top of what I do for LOTT. And I'm not complaining at all, really. This is just part of the nature of what I do. And again, we're looking at the payoff, the long-term payoff. It's short-term for me, but for these kids, they'll remember that somebody stood up and tried to make a difference in their lives. At least that's what I'm praying for.
Exactly. And so, you know, teaching it and what you do really, it's not a career, and it's really more than a passion. It's a lifestyle. So when I look at somebody like you, I admire what you do, and everybody around you admires what you do, because you have taken all of that passion and energy, and you've just risen to another level that I can't even really describe. I mean, my words fall short to be able to describe the passion and the energy and the drive that you put into these children every day. What you do on a daily basis is just phenomenal.
Thank you. You have to be careful. I will say this in truth. You always walk a razor's edge, because if you burn yourself out, that's going to show with the children too. You defeat the purpose of what you're trying to do. So it's a fine line. Sometimes you have to know when to pull back and how much you can hold on your plate. Sometimes it feels like it's going to overflow, but again, when you see the payoff, when you see the kids say yes, or they feel excited that they've learned something, a new vocabulary word that they've picked up, they love to use it. I mean, those kinds of things are just, they're wonderful. They're the payoff, and you're like, okay, take a breather, start over, and you're ready for more.
Yeah, LOTT is teaching me more self-respect and respect for others.
So far, even though we've been dealing with all this mess, we've got the basic paper in order. We've got the construction paper ordered, and we moved the cabinets on the last trip. Okay. Now what we've got to deal with is the stuff in the middle. Okay,
Mr. Reyes is funny. He gives us an advanced chance to do more advanced qualities, which is like cooking, theater, and helping the community. Like we just finished this room. We cleaned the whole room, and it looks beautiful.
What I like about LOTT is I don't really know. Like, I just like it all. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's just a great feeling to be in. Like, there's no other place like it.
LOTT, I think I like cooking because my grandma doesn't teach me. Like theater, I want to be an actor. I like LOTT because it gives me advanced opportunity.
So who do you look up to in life? Is there somebody that you admire?
When I say look up, for me personally, it's God. Everything that I do is driven by my passion for God, for making a difference, for being a good person. When we say look to a person, I look in different directions. When I look back, I see people who have made a difference in my life as an educator. I had a 6th grade teacher, Mrs. Williams, who cared about who I was as a person when I needed attention. And that, I think, has a lot to do with how I approach kids now. I realize it's not just about the pencil, the paper, the books. Those are important. But it's also about who you are and what you care about, and does somebody love you? I think that was a great role model for me. There were also things that my parents and family have done. My mother gave me that sense of hard work, that work ethic. She gave me that sense of austerity. It's like, no, we've got to get down to business, so we get down to business.
As mothers do.
But mothers do. But, you know, there's also that sense of, you know that you're loved. There's business to be done when it's time for business, but you know that you're appreciated, you know that you're loved, you know that your hard work has a purpose in life. And I think that this spills over into the kids. I think it has a lot to do with what's going on in the classroom, and more so with LOTT, because it isn't about what comes out of my mouth. It's about the attitude that we have going back and forth in that dialogue.
And it really is about that mutual relationship that you have with them, because I've even seen you take that, the hardest child it is that you think you can, can't get them to do this, or really, get them to see something from a different perspective, but you really have been able to make that connection with our most easygoing children and our hardest to reach children. We do see that turnaround, and I credit that turnaround to the relationship that you build with each and every one of these kids. I mean, you really do take the time and effort to make it an individual relationship versus a whole group, or what I see is not one of these children to you are just a number. They're all somebody that you have a very personal relationship with, and I think that it's something that's going to stay with them forever.
That's true, and again, that is what the children sense. They can tell the difference. Even if I am hard on them and I tell them, okay, you need to look at this, you need to look at what you're doing, and how you are approaching certain problem-solving techniques. So this isn't the strategy that you want to use. This isn't the character trait that you should be showing. So what is the way to problem solve this? What is the way to treat another person or to react to that situation differently? And sometimes I'm like, oh, Mr. Reyes, my brain hurts. They literally told me that. But at the end of the day, they keep coming back to you. That's the wonder of it all. You would think that kids would just be so tired of you. But at the end of the day, they're like, bye, Mr. Reyes, have a good day, thank you. When you hear that, despite everything else, it's magic.
So where do you want to see education go?
Education as a system is locked with some paradigms. We have a certain way that we teach children, and I think that we need to explore different avenues. I'm fortunate that I'm in a district that cares about having that focus of control within each site. I mean, that makes a difference, working with the principal, and the principal saying, well, you're the professional, do what you think you need to do, and let's see the outcome. That's a blessing. Having that freedom is setting me in the right direction, but one of the things we have to look at is technology. We are not accessing technology the way that we should. If you set these kids free with their cell phones, with their iPads, they would really take off, because that's where it's at for them. I have fantastic students, they're great learners, but I also know from experimenting with certain students that, let's say for world geography, if I let them come up with an app that teaches them the nations of every continent, they'll learn quicker, because that's what they're used to, that's their world. And again, going back to LOTT, part of that social experiment is seeing what triggers them. How can I tap into what they're doing? This is the type of focus that we need to have as we move forward. Integrating videos into your lessons, that's one thing that we've talked about. Getting those other media devices on board is, I think, where we should go. I dream of a day when I can, I saw a commercial where somebody had a phone and then they bumped it, I think they call it, to another phone, and information was exchanged. Wouldn't that be wonderful if I could do that to them? It's like, okay, this is the information I want you to learn, and I bump it. That would be fantastic. And then they would have their applications where they could learn. It'd be wonderful to have a resource person here who could take the traditional worksheets that I put up and then they can turn that into some sort of an application, a game for the students to learn. I think that we'd really get a lot out of that.
Something that I have a vision for eventually would be a bring your own technology. And, you know, when we're quizzing our kids and checking for understanding, using Twitter and having them tweet all their answers to us. And, you know, not only does it make it more like a fun game to them, it's very engaging. And there's a lot of times I like to describe that, you know, nowadays our kids come out of the womb knowing how to use technology. And the reason I say that is because, you know, we have toddlers who know how to use iPhones now. And, you know, my 11-year-old son teaches me how to do things. And it's amazing what they can figure out when they're engaged.
That's right.
And technology today is the way to go as far as engaging students.
It definitely is, and think of where we can go when the kids become the teachers for us. I have no shame asking a child, what is that and how do I do that? I mean, that opens up a different realm of engagement completely. So you're right about that, for sure. We're looking in going that direction, but part of the secret too, in general, for teaching is letting the kids know that you want to learn as well. I think if you adopt that stance, then they're like, oh, I can teach you this, Mr. Reyes. Their relationship with you changes, and I think that it's healthy and it's wonderful. I think that buy-in it ups incredibly.
It does. It becomes more of a mutual relationship versus top-down.
Sure.
We get to help our community, and we get more things that other students in our class, like cooking or doing plays or watching movies.
Code breaking.
So are there any obstacles that you see being in your way of anything that you want to accomplish in education or, you know, with students in general?
Part of it is, again, it's the way that it's a systemic problem. We've been focused on the standardized testing and meeting those goals, and that eats up a lot of your time because you're always trying to do better on that test. You're trying to raise the scores. I don't have any problem with standardized testing, and I think with Common Core, we're heading in the right direction. Things are changing for the positive. But it's the ancillary things that are problematic for me. There's so much that these kids could learn. There's so much more that should be taught to them, especially from a humanitarian perspective. And I think when we're looking at that, we have economic problems. That's a big step. What would I like? I would like laptops for every one of the students. I would like them to be able to have the technology that we're talking about. That's not going to happen right away. We have a fantastic district, but like every other district, it has its constraints. So money is a problem. Politics are sometimes a problem because of what voters choose to have in a classroom going on, what they see, what they don't see. There is, quite frankly, bad press about, you know, the way that education is going. People aren't happy. But when you actually step into these classrooms, especially one like mine, I can guarantee that my students are getting a fantastic and superior education. They know things I didn't know till I was in high school. These kids they're fantastically groomed. But again, you know, when you're talking about what is it that's slowing you down, part of it is training, part of it is an awareness. One of the problems that I discovered when I was applying for grants was that the power goes to a collective. As an individual teacher, you have some power, but when you band together, that's when the changes start to happen. I'm blessed here to have teachers that are a grade level below me who care about what I'm doing. What can I do, Mr. Reyes, that you're doing that's going to ease the burden when these kids come up? What's going to facilitate it for these children? We have that dialogue, that transparency, the kids raise. The grade level below them. It happens, and these kids, it's that spiral staircase, that idea that they're going through. If you get one teacher that's connecting with another, with another, with another, I think if we could link that on a longer continuum, a lot of those problems, those barriers would fall.
And we're seeing some of those barriers fall for us, especially here at Puesta, because the backwards mapping that our upper grades have done, you know, 6th working with 5th and 5th working with 4th, especially in our writing, we're now beginning to see that pay off.
Definitely.
And, you know, what I see us doing in the future is taking that all the way down to kinder, and we are starting to do that, especially with Common Core. So, you know, the world is just going to be opening up for us here, and hopefully will be a model for other schools to be able to work collaboratively that same way that we do.
Yes, that is the goal for all of these children. Education does have to change. But you can't throw away the baby with the bathwater.
Exactly.
You know, the thing that I tell people is, if the system is so bad, how did I come out being halfway decent? I'm a fairly intelligent man. I have compassion. I'm a good citizen. My teachers did something right. I may not teach these children in exactly the same way, but there are elements of the way that I was taught that are still valuable. And it's integrating what we know, what we cherished as children and as young adults, and integrating that with the new things that the kids care about. It's trying to find the middle ground between those two worlds.
What student has had the most effect on you throughout your entire career?
Ooh, that's a tough one. You know, I can think of students that have succeeded. I have had parents and their students say that they would delay a move to Los Angeles, that they would stop their plans because their child loved the education they were getting because they felt an affinity toward me. Those are powerful moments, and they're not isolated. And I'm not saying that to brag. But I think the student perhaps that has moved me the most is the student that got away. There are students, I told you before that I consider students to be, you know, there's the lock and I'm the key. And I think when I look at kids whose lock I wasn't able to turn, there's something about that. Another way of looking at it, sometimes I think of myself as having 34 Rubik's Cubes in front of me, and I'm trying to turn those cubes and get them all to be the same color and perfect and, you know, make them shine. And as soon as I put one down and I'm ready for the next one, someone comes along and they change that cube. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm still working on these and I've got to go through it. I'm just determined to turn those kids. I'm determined to give them something to look forward to. And it doesn't happen often, but occasionally there's one or two. It just... Maybe it's the perfectionist in me, maybe it's just seeing the kids as individuals. It hurts when you don't turn that lock, when that cube isn't turned or at least halfway colored where they can see something. I want the kids to come out with rose-colored glasses, I suppose. And so when you say what kid has turned me, it's the one or two who, despite everything, they didn't have that joy, that zeal for education. I mean, you can get kids to be compliant and you can get kids to learn. They had good grades. But it's the kids that say, I want to wake up in the morning and come to school. I want every kid to say that. And it happens for most of my class. That's a common comment. The kids love to come to school. But it's those one or two that get away. I always think to myself, what did I do wrong? But what did I do wrong? But I may not be, I'm planting the seeds. I may not be the one who they grow up for, you know, who they blossom for. But perhaps I planted enough where the next teacher can come along and help them to bloom. That's the best way I can hope to look at it. So
it's not, what did I do wrong? It's, I care.
I care. Yeah, it is. It is. You think that you have all the answers. That's one of the pressures of being a teacher. If you really, really care about these kids, you think there's something there. If I just turn a different corner, that kid will click. It'll click. It'll click. And most of them do. But you're right. It's that you do care. And it's not easy. It's not easy to see some kids go through and they just don't have that zest for education. It's tough. It's a tough one.
It's tough, but what makes you different is you don't give up.
No, I don't.
You don't give up.
I don't. And I have seen some of those kids later, and they remember. They're like, Mr. Reyes, I remember. I wasn't a great student when when you were the teacher, and I know what you're trying to tell me, but I know now. So sometimes that happens, and you're thinking, yes, it did matter. It did make a difference. The thing that drives me always is, am I making a difference in these kids' lives? And that's what teaching is all about. The pen, the paper, the text are fine. But who they are as people is more important.
Who they are as people is more important. I used to always describe the reason why I went into teaching was because I wanted to be that one person that when the student grew up, when they grew up and were 80 years old, they would remember me.
Right.
That there was something, one moment in time that I had enough impact that they remembered me. And so I think that's where you and I are a lot alike.
I think so. You look for that Oprah moment. You know, Oprah Winfrey, as big as she is, accredits so much of her success to her, her fifth grade teacher. Yeah, wouldn't we love to be that kind of a person in these kids' lives? Someone to look up to and someone who they want to emulate and become later on. That's great. That's great.
And that's why we do it. Well, Jerry, I want to thank you for your time. I really enjoyed the time that we spent together, and I do want you to know that everywhere I go, I'm always saying, when I walk into Jerry Reyes' class, there's something that I learn that is new to me every day. There's not a week that doesn't go by where I'm not sharing something that you're doing that's fabulous in your classroom. So I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for the way that you inspire kids on a daily basis.
Thank you.
You're making a change every day, and you impact a life every day. And the dedication and the time that you put into it and the love that you give all of our students, I mean, it is going to make a difference, and I want you to know that. I want you to know that you inspire many people, and hopefully this this video that we're going to share with everybody will allow people to get to know you better and to also let them see the fabulous things that you're doing on behalf of kids every day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for partnering with me, because this wouldn't happen if I didn't have the freedom and the support, you know, that you give me as well. All of this partnering in education it's the magic. That's where it happens.
Oh, good. On a funnier note, though, I want to let you know, and this needs to be said, that I learn a new word almost every week. Dictionary.com is on my phone, and every time I get an email, I say, oh, I gotta look up that word. So even I am learning from you.
That's
so
great,
I thank
though.
you for that as well.
That's great. I think we should. It's a learning. That's a professional learning community, isn't it?
It definitely,
Yeah,
indeed.
So. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you just got to redesign a part that you've already done.
This is supposed to connect to
What's causing your structure to lean? And how are you going to, if this were a real-life Ferris wheel, I know that your parts are limited, but if this were a real-life Ferris wheel, because for us, we're always thinking it's a real thing, what would you do if this were a real structure?
I'd say I would put another motor facing.
What do we call that?
Counterbalance.
A counterbalance, that's correct.
Mr. Ray is one of those teachers that he encourages you to be a better student than the others.
He's fun and he's a good teacher. He teaches us a lot of stuff, and he's the best teacher I ever had.
He's funny, and he helps me learn more than any other teacher that I have in my whole, any time that I've been in school, he teaches me more than anything.
Mr. Reyes is the best teacher. He's fun, and he's just the best.
I like that he's teaching us new things. He's funny, and he's kind to us. And then he teaches us more things, things that other students don't know, and we get a head start.
Mr. Reyes, he has higher expectations than he does most of the other students in LOTT.
That we could trust him, and that he's really nice, and he can sometimes have us do amazing things.
Mr. Reyes is the best.
I like Mr. Reyes because he's not a strict teacher. He's very fun and exciting, and he gives us a lot of opportunities, and he lets us retry things when we make a mistake.
Mr. Reyes is the best.
What I like about Mr. Reyes is, I don't know, I just think he's awesome.
Mr. Reyes is the best.
He wants a better future for us.
Mr. Reyes is the best.
Mr. Reyes is the best. Mr. Reyes is the best.